Welcome. I know you're from San Ardo, so yay! I'm so glad that our districts are starting to kind of team up together and offer trainings to one another. I think it's really beneficial, especially for us in the South County, just to kind of band together. I mean, there are kids and they kind of, come and go from all of our areas. So my name is Lisa Nowakowski. I've been here, I don't know, 20 some years or something like that. I'm originally from Detroit, and I'm a TOSA up in King City. Just a little bit more about me. I'm a Google certified innovator and trainer. I'm also heavily involved in the CUE organization, CUE, and that's an ed tech organization here in California. Okay, so EduProtocols is all about the 4Cs. So what EduProtocols does is it creates a template that you can use on the reg without having to reimagine like doing something fancy schmancy and coming up with all of these worksheets. It's much like having a picture frame and you're just trading out the picture. So that's exactly what you're doing. You're just trading out the content with each one of these EduProtocols. And there are several EduProtocols, and we're really only going to be looking at two of them today. So we're going to be looking at the Fast and the Curious, and we're also going to be looking at MathReps. Which I did develop. So we're going to be going through those, and the kids like them. They're interactive and they're way better than like worksheets that the kids, go through. The beauty of EduProtocols is they know what's going to happen, so they don't have to navigate the protocol, or they don't have to navigate like the worksheet or what you're asking them to do, because in Fast and the Curious there is no sheet or anything that they have to fill in. So that kind of takes away some of that from them so that they can focus on the content. And some of the things with EduProtocols, they're like lower level, depth of knowledge one. So they're not, deep thinking things, but you have to have those DOK1 things in order to access, the higher thinking skills. So that's what some of this is going to be about as well. So like I said, we're going to be looking at MathReps and then the Fast and the Curious. So I'm going to do the Fast and the Curious first. So if you don't deal with math, you can just kind of go after the Fast and the Curious just to, honor your time. So the Fast and the Curious is really cool. It's game-based. You don't have to check anything. Your teachers don't have to check anything, and it keeps all of the data with it. So you can do it with Greek and Latin roots, math facts, science facts, history. I was talking to a teacher over the weekend, and he had done it with Egyptian culture, and he teaches sixth grade. You can do it with story elements, vocabulary, all sorts of things like that. I did it with math facts last year. And I'm not sure what level your kids are at as far as like knowing their math facts. If you're a para for 7th and 8th grade, you're probably working with resource students, students with IEPs, so they might be a little bit behind in those things. And I hate saying behind because like there are 7th and 8th graders in the gen ed class that still don't know their math facts. This is one way that it totally works. I didn't want it to work when I first tried it, mainly because I wanted to prove the person wrong. They were right, I was wrong. So last September, I was teaching 5th grade, and my 5th graders had a class average of 54-ish% of knowing their math facts. By December, they were up to 97%. We have a 3-week break. I'm not sure what your break is, but we have a 3-week break. And then we came back and I was like, all right, it's not going to be so good. It only went down to 94%. So it sticks, like these things stick with them. And we're going to talk about a little bit more about that. MathReps are awesome. They're just a 1-page, you as the teacher or the para change the number daily. And we'll look at this your students will be looking at several concepts or several standards that are joined all at once. So they can start to see those bridging gaps, because in math so much, we don't really bridge those gaps for them when we teach things in isolation. Going back to like just regular multiplication, we teach the area model and then we teach the algorithm, but we never show them how they're interconnected. And so I think that's a lacking. And so what this does is it's a quick review for you and the students. Again, it's the reps. Much like any sport, you don't just do the play once, or I was a cheerleader. So like you don't just do the routine or the cheer once, you have to do it over and over again to get that muscle memory. And that's what MathReps does for them with math skills. They're all customizable. They're already pre-made for you. So like you don't have to like think of anything. Like people have already made them and kind of said, hey, Lise, put this in the shared folder. So there's already stuff that's out there for you. So you don't have to do anything and reinvent the wheel. You can just like snag stuff and you can customize it and take off certain elements of it that maybe aren't needed, or it's maybe too much for your students, or add elements onto it that you think are lacking in it. So all of those things work with it. So I know you're not in the Nearpod, but we're going to I was going to go through it with you, but I'm not going to make you do it. You're an adult. You're fine. So with the fast and the curious, oh, my internet's unstable, so I have to turn off my video because, the joys of living in the middle of nowhere, right? So with the fast and the curious, it's a 5-day cycle is what I usually do it as. And putting on the chat. Okay. And so on day 1, you give the quiz cold. You just give it to them. And it doesn't matter if you've never seen the words before, if they're unfamiliar with the context in which you're giving it to them. It's just a fun way to do it. And then you review it. You immediately review it. And then you give that quiz again. And what I did last year is on the board, I just kept track of the high score as a group. Never do the individual, always as a group. Like this was the high score that we got this week. This is the lowest score that we got this week. So you can show them their growth. Days 2 through 5, you just give them the quiz once. And trust me, they will be begging to do it more than once. And there are ways that you can have them practice it without you, and it still collects all of that. And again, you're going to record all of those scores. Just the high and the low. So once they replace that high score, you're going to erase it and just write the new high score in so you can compare that. And they like doing that. So some of the tools that you can use are quizzes, which is one of my favorite ones. So QUIZIZZ. So that's one of my favorite ones. That's the one I used last year. Kahoot. I'm not the biggest fan of Kahoot, but that's my own issue. If you like Kahoot, Kahoot totally works. Quizzes is a lot like Kahoot, except for they can go at their own pace. They don't have to wait for everybody. For the upper grades, this next one is called GimKit. You can also go into GimKit and assign things, and they can just play games live with you, or you can just assign it as homework and they'll keep practicing. They have ones like the Infinity Stone. They have one that's like Among Us. So they have all these different games in GimKit that's really good for upper grades. Another one is Blookit. And I've been kind of playing around with Blookit. I think it's a little, depending on your kids, I think it's maybe more for elementary, maybe not the 7th and 8th graders, but you can go ahead and give it a try. And then there's another one that I'm kind of playing around with, and I just learned about it. It's called wordwall.net. So that one, again, is like a game-based sort of thing. I like the information that you get from quizzes, because it grades it for you. You don't have to do any of the work. Kahoot, of course, grades it for you. Blookit, I'm like, with the information that you get, because they're like, ooh, you want better information? Pay for it. And I'm not all about the paying thing. And Wordwall, you get some really good information from Wordwall. Did you have a question, or are you still good?
I'm still good. We use our my teacher that I work with. She uses quizzes,
Mhm.
and she uses Kahoot. Yeah.
Great. Yeah. So depending on, she may not know about GimKit. Like I just learned about GimKit recently. And I'm still trying to figure it out. And the person I was talking to, John Carippo, who came up with all of these edu protocols, or a lot of these edu protocols, we were talking about GimKit. I'm like, yeah, I just can't get into it. And he's like, what's wrong? I'm like, I don't understand how to play the games. And I legit don't understand how to play the games. His whole philosophy is not my problem. It's like, he's like, no, that's for the kids to figure out. All they do is answer. So I did go into like the Infinity Stone one, and I was like, I don't get how to get the stones. He's like, well, you just go into the store and buy. I'm like, yeah, but you have to like buy the right ones in order to like, I don't get it. He goes, yeah, not my problem. That the kids will figure that out. But what they're doing is they're answering questions to gain coins so they can go to the store to buy these Infinity Stones in order to win. I don't know. I don't understand it. But I loved his philosophy of don't worry about it. The kids will figure it out for you.
Yeah, they're pretty smart, so
Yeah.
they'll
So,
probably
I
figure
mean,
it out quicker than we will.
probably exactly. So I think GimKit is I've heard great things about GimKit, but like I said, I'm getting stomped up on like, I'm so used to from the elementary perspective, like, let me teach you how to play this game. And I need to kind of let some of that go. So yeah. And wordwall.net too is a really good one. I do appreciate that one. I was looking at that one quickly the other day, and they have several games. So, when kids kind of get used to or get tired of playing like quizzes or Kahoot, it's like, okay, sorry guys, like, and they just kind of get tired of the same old thing. If you throw like a new thing at them, same material, new thing, they get all excited. So yay for that.
Yeah.
So I am not going to have you do this because you're not on it, but what you would normally do is instead of, because I'm in Nearpod right now, instead of doing that, you would have them, I was going to have you simulate it like 4 questions or something like that. It's on like pizza toppings. Or no, types of pizza, that's what it is. And then you would just kind of go through the game. And then, you probably did terrible. And then you would go through like, okay, what are some of the finer points of it? Well, some of the finer points are, and this is that review thing that you would do the first day. Well, like the pizza is made with, large hand toss. It's a thin crust. It's sold in super wide slices. And if you don't fold it in half, people think you're weird. And then there's the the Chicago style, which is, an iron skillet. It's a super deep dish sort of thing. It's like a bajillion calories. Then you have your Detroit style pizza. Ironically, coming from Detroit, I am not a fan of Detroit style pizza. Weird. I also don't like Motown music, but like I don't make that very well known. I mean, outside of, Detroit, because they get really testy about those things. And I also drive a Toyota. So like I am like weird. So like Detroit style pizza is rectangular. It's kind of a thick, chewy crust. I don't know. It's interesting. And then there's like the St. Louis style, which is like this cracker kind of, crusty pizza, and the different types of cheese. And then we would take the quiz again, and you would notice because of that, we've done that immediate feedback. You would do much better on the second quiz. So again, this works really great for those math concepts or vocabulary or whatever concepts you're trying to do with the kiddos. And then just going over all of that again. And I do have your email, so I can send this video to you if you wanted to share it out with your teacher. I don't know if you want to do that.
Yes, please.
Yeah. So are you interested in, do you work with like the math concepts too? Were you interested in that?
Well, right now what we have them do is we have them do ST math.
Oh,
I don't
I'm
know if
not
you've heard
familiar
of
with
it.
that. No.
It's like a little penguin, and it has no words, so students
Okay.
have to figure it out on their own. It's pretty cool.
Oh, I have heard of that like years and years and years ago. I knew about that. Yes. Okay. So like it's vaguely foggy familiar in my brain. I think my internet's okay now. So yeah, I think it's kind of vaguely foggy familiar. So I'm just going to go through this. I mean, it's my stuff, so of course I think it's awesome. But So part of it is you take several standards. This is what I did when I started doing it. I just took several standards that went together. So the first one that I ever did was like the NBT standard. So like knowing your place value. Fifth grade, it was like, you know, adding and subtracting with decimals, you know, multiplying with decimals, all of those things. So I took one number and I had them do multiply that number by 10 so that they're moving that decimal over, so that they get that, you know, multiply it by 1/10 so that they're moving it in the other direction. And then you take two of them together and you have to add the decimals. So they're getting used to lining up the decimals. Then they have to subtract the decimals. And because I'm a brat and I mean, it always ended with a 0 in like whatever was the last number, it always ended with a 0. So they always had to regroup. So we're getting that extra practice of regrouping, because I am sure in 7th grade, they still can't regroup consistently, or at least you have a pocket of them that just can't regroup consistently, because that happens in 5th grade and it happens in 4th grade and it happens in 3rd grade, even though they've been doing it forever. So I kind of have them do all of those things with it, and then just kind of some other skills that went with it. Then there was the multiplication one. So it was like, show me the area model, show me the algorithm. And then we talked about how they were related so they could start to see the connection between why you do the area model and it works and how it relates to the algorithm. And then we also threw in division on that one as well, so that they can see how everything kind of works together. The beauty of it is you can do it on a slide, so a Google slide if you're using Google Slides. If you're not, and you can do it on PowerPoint, same thing. A frame, if you're using Jamboard, you can do it on Nearpod, you can do it on Pear Deck. I don't have any on Pear Deck and I only have very few on Nearpod, but if you wanted some on Nearpod, I'd be totally happy to make them for you. Or you can do it on paper. It doesn't really matter right now. You know, whatever your kids are used to doing or can access that isn't like a bridge too far, like too many new things at once. And then you give the immediate feedback. And that's why it all works together. So, and I'll let you look at one in just a minute. So I assign it. Then we do it together and check it. So depending if it's the first week, I always do it with them the first week. Like, period, end of story, we're going to do it together the first week. After that, once they've gotten that routine down, I give them a chunk to do. And if they can do that chunk, then we check it right away. If I think they can do the whole paper, then I have them do the whole paper. And then we check it right away. It just depends on the grouping of kids I have. Some years I've been able to do a whole paper. Other years it's you have 5 minutes to complete this section of the paper and we're going to check it. So it can be done quickly. And then Friday, the beauty of all of this is that you take the same exact paper that you've been using and you give it to the students, and that's their weekly assessment. So they can go through it. There we go. So they can go through it. Beverly, hi. I just put in the Nearpod. I don't know if you're just going to listen or not, but I just put in the Nearpod link in the chat for you. So it's that whole thing of just like reviewing. And then for my students who mastered it 2 weeks in a row on the Friday assessment, if they mastered it the following week, they didn't have to do math reps. I set them to do other tasks. So they were creating videos of how to multiply with the algorithm. They were creating tutorials. They had other tasks to do that were more for them because they obviously knew it, the information. If they wanted to continue, if they wanted to do it, I was going to let them do it. They never wanted to do it again. But on Fridays, I did make sure that they had to do the assessment again because I wanted to make sure that they were retaining the information. So that was just a conversation that we would have privately, like, okay, you're still going to have to do the Friday assessments just to make sure you're retaining and keeping all this information in your cute little heads. Oops, here we go. So here is an example. So I'm going to go ahead and see if I can switch. Sometimes I try and switch and it doesn't switch properly on me. It says it's waiting for Nearpod. It could very well be waiting for, there we go. So here's my student version. And so this is an example. This is a 4th grade example. I was in a training over the weekend and they did like a high school example of these things. I was like, I can't even understand any of this. So I like to go lower so that like theoretically we all kind of understand it and kind of get it. So this is a math rep that I created for a 4th grade in our district. So you see we have the area model. It kind of got cut off on the end, but we have the area model and the distributive property so that they can see how they go together and how they connect. So I would literally, if you are my students, I would have you walking through this and would say, okay, so this is the only thing that I changed on the reg is the whole number 1 and the whole number 2. The students are doing everything else, which is quite brilliant. So we talk about, okay, how do you decompose this number? Okay, so it's 90. Ooh, that is super fat there, isn't it? Let's go a little skinnier. And then I always have them put the plus sign and 6, and then it's the whole number 6 because I don't have it over here. I normally put it over here. I'm just going to put it over here for now because I ran out of space. So then we would talk about what is 90 plus 6. We might want to relate it to what is 9 plus 6. So what is 90 plus 6? Because they have to know all of that information. So then they would say 500, 540. There we go. And then 6 times 6, you might even want to put the multiplication sign there. 36, you can have them add it, 540 plus the 36 equals 6, 7, 5. And this drives me banana pants, so I always lock it down here. So this low lock down here locks this bar in place because the going in the up and the down, it drives me crazy. So then we talk about the distributive property. You know, and like I said, I know you teach, or you're, Alma, you're with, you know, 7th and 8th graders. So we do have it for the 7th and 8th grade. If there's something that you're like, hey, like our kids need this skill, but you don't have that, let me know. I would love to say I would make it up, but I'm not going to. I will find people who are smarter than I am to go and make them for me. And my co-author is in charge of like the 7th and 8th grade stuff. And then we do have people at the high school level who, you know, make things for the high school level. I am not adept enough to make them. So I outsource all of that work to other people so that we can have that. I don't want to pretend that I know how to do something that I don't. So again, with this, we would have, okay, so we have 6 times, okay, then you decompose 90 plus 6, and you would have them working that out. Okay, so that's 540. You see, this is the same. And you talk about that with the kids and you start making those connections for the kids. Hopefully they make them themselves, but they don't always, especially this year. 6 times 6. Just because this year is such a wonky year. But Alma, you guys are in session, aren't you? You're
We're on a hybrid
live.
model.
Okay.
Yeah, so
But
we
it's,
have like 7th grade in the morning and then 8th grade in the afternoon.
oh goodness. Well, that probably works out okay-ish. Do you have any that like any 7th graders that are totally remote, or any 8th graders that are totally remote? Or does it?
As of this week, we will have hopefully no students that are remote. Hopefully all of our students are 100% in person. But last week we did have like 3 7th graders online, and like 1 for sure student online, but they would be on and off because they weren't like either or. They'd come and go on person and Zoom. So
that's hard on you guys. So bless you for we're starting to navigate that as well, like how that's going to look for us. And it's just not easy. I so bless you for that. Um, and so something like math reps can be done like once they know the routine, it can be flopped over to, this is your asynchronous work. So we have teachers who do this, they've done it with their kids, and then they photocopy it. Like when I was in the classroom before COVID hit, I would get like, I have paper. Like I wanted my kids writing it out. We did it legit on paper. I collected them. Like there was a lot of paper things going on. But that was my preference. You don't have to do it this way. I think with Jamboard and all of the differences with Jamboard now, the kids can write it out. I'm still just a fan of the paper pencil thing. You could do that. So like I was saying, so some of the teachers in my district are photocopying it and then putting it in a plastic sleeve and then having them write with the dry erase marker, taking a picture of it. We do have within, and I'll give you the resource for this, we do have a recording sheet that you can do that my co-author created, and it has like a reflection piece. When he created a lot of the middle school stuff, he was in a 6th, 7th, 8th grade, something like that. He was in middle school taking over for another teacher. So he was in it and he was doing his whole, kind of using it on students and developing these things with students. So it does work with students. It's not like we dreamed up these things and never, tested it on kids, because I always tested my things out on my students. And this year, even though I'm out of the classroom, I do get to test my things out on other on other kids. I have friends. I'm like, okay, I'm testing this out on your kids. I did that with Book It the other day. I was like, testing something on your kids. I don't know how it's going to work. So that was fun. And then, the division toolkit, this is handy. I got this from a 6th grade teacher in our district. So I'm not going to go over primary composite because you know that. I do love that it has this up here, some vocabulary words so they can see that. With the division toolkit, the way I used to do it is, 6 goes into 96 how many times? Well, like that was too much for me. I just remember goes into, like, that was the thing the teachers taught me. That's too much. Like that's pretty intimidating for that's pretty intimidating for me, and I'm an adult. So like, to make life a little bit easier and give them a tool to be successful, I love this. So the division toolkit is just taking that divisor and writing it out. 6 times 1 is 6. 6 times 2 is 12. I'm not going to write the whole thing. 18, 24, 30. And then I always stop at 5 and the kids freak out. They're like, what? I'm like, stop at 5. I'm lazy. I don't want to do anymore. So these are all my times ones, but this is where now I'm sneaking in some extra skills that they need to know that they don't always connect. These are all going to be my times 10. So instead of 6 times 1, it's going to be 6 times 10. And so they get to start seeing, my equal sign isn't working right. They start to see those patterns. Oh, this is going to be 120. Oh, this is 180. And then I have them stop. I have them look at the product and I have them look at the dividend. Do I need to keep going? Hopefully they say no. All right, great. So no. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to stop. So, and then I ask them and we go through this, and this is the talk that we have constantly. Okay, I only have 96. What number comes closest to 96 without going over? They should be able to say 60. Fantastic. What did we multiply it by? 10. Fantastic. 60. We subtract. 36. That is not a 3. There it is. Now it's a 3. It's a really wonky 3. So then we bring that over here, 36. Now I only have to 30. There'll be some kids that realize, hey, if I just add 6 more, I get 36. Well, it's not going to matter if they do it this way or not, or if they just say 30 and this is 5, because we're adding all of this together. So let's say they don't recognize that adding 6 more is going to give us 36. I'm going to go ahead and say, all right, well, 5 times 6 is 30. We subtract that. I have 6. I'm going to bring that over here. Oh, well, that's just 1. So you subtract the 6. Oh my goodness, there we go. And you have the 0. So then you're just adding all of this up. You can put an X here. What is 10 plus 5 plus 1? And they should be able to say, oh, 16. So in this case, it didn't matter. And this is the beauty of doing it this way, of having this toolbox, because it kind of takes some of that pressure off of needing to know it's 36 and it's 6 times 6 is 36. Math is so glorious that no matter what way you choose to do it, you're like there are several paths. It's like going to the park. You can take this street or that street, and you're going to get there in the end. Some streets are going to be more direct than others, absolutely. But if you only know one way, then like let's just start off with that, and we'll bring you into the way that's a little bit more, a little bit easier and a little bit more cohesive, or that makes more sense. All right. So like I said, there's a whole bunch of different ones that target different skills. So depending on the skill level, the skill that you're looking for, we probably have something. Certain grade levels are bulkier than others, just because people, I don't always make them up. So other people, make them up, and I just kind of dump it in. So that's how it goes. This is the routine that I use to get started. So Mondays, the first week, I think I already touched on this. I introduce and I walk through it with them. So we go through everything. It takes about 45 minutes, and you're going to want to pound your head against a brick wall because you are convinced that that is going to be less painful than what you are going through, and you will not be wrong. However, the beauty of it is day 2 takes less time. It takes a lot less time on day 2. Day 3, you've got kids who are already going ahead of you because they can't handle how slow you're going, because some people still need extra work. You let them go ahead. That's fine, because you're checking it. You're making sure that they're doing okay. Great, we're checking this. Beverly, you went ahead. I want you to go back and make sure that you did this properly. Check your work. Day 4, excuse me. You literally have it down to 12 to 15 minutes. From 45 minutes to about 12 minutes, fantastic work. So most of them will be working ahead, and you really won't need to be doing it with them, but I still encourage you to kind of do it with them and check it. And then finally, on the first week, you could give the assessment, a baseline assessment, to track their progress, but you don't have to. It's really going to depend on your class, and your kids best. Like, are they going to freak out, or is it going to be like, no, it's okay? So that's your thing. You might even on Wednesdays, once you get your routine going, on Wednesdays, you might want to do something different, maybe a which one doesn't belong, or see, estimation 180. There's a whole bunch of other different things you could do, a 3-act math task that you could also do, just to kind of change it up so that they're not always doing the same thing. And then once you have a good percentage, you decide on the percentage, 90% of your kids, 94% of your kids are proficient in whatever skill you're working on with MathReps, move them on to the next one. And then you'll start that process over again. And then what's super fun is going back to one that they had mastered at the beginning of the year, and then throwing it like a week, like at the beginning of the year, doing all the multiplication ones, and then in the middle of a fractions unit, or I know you guys 7th and 8th grade do, parallel lines, and that's what I was looking at this weekend. All of those things in the middle of that, throw in the multiplication one for just a week. The first day they all freak out because they've forgotten it. Okay, they think they forgot it, but they really didn't. They just need a little refresher. So you throw it at them for about a week, and then the following week you go back to your angles and lines and all of those great things. That is pretty much all I have for you. If you also go to eduprotocols.com, like I said, I'll send you this video too. This has free templates for you. MathReps.com has free templates for you. So everything is free. It's open pedagogy, and that's kind of what we all believe in. So there are 3 books because you came today, yay, and I know you signed up for other sessions too throughout the week. Every time you come, your name gets kind of thrown into the bucket, and we'll pick winners for some prizes, and some of the EduProtocol books are some prizes along with some other things that are prizes as well. So we have 8 minutes early. Life is good, right? So do you have, either one of you have any questions on anything?